Hey, welcome to Link. Today we want to come to you. We're glad you joined us, and we want to talk about one of the great pressures that ministers are facing today, spiritual leaders of all kind, but especially those who work in the local church or in ministry. The statistics say that 8 out of 10 pastors feel that the ministry has negatively affected their families. Many pastors' kids don't even attend church when they grow up. They're not even in church today.
Yeah, you know, you all heard the stories about the PKs, preachers' kids. You know, of course, we both have preachers' kids, and I tell everybody they're wild because they hang out with the deacons' kids.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
But you know, that's not the truth there. But the truth is, the reason so many kids have so many troubles in their life and don't want to go to church when they get older is because of the pressures of life. I remember, Pastor, young, as my children were young, I have 2 girls, when we moved into our current location, as you know, it took a lot of work and worked here all the time. Right. My kids invested so much of their time. And my priorities were not right, Pastor. And one day we finally had an off night after several months, just sitting at home, and we were having a discussion. And I said something about the ministry, I'll never forget it. My oldest daughter, who is the sweetest thing in the world, looked at me and said, "Daddy, I will never be in the ministry. I hate the ministry." And it was like somebody stuck a knife through my heart. Because, you know, as a pastor, I'm thinking both my girls are going to be involved in ministry. Now, of course, she's changed her mind since then. Now she's talking about one day she'd like to do this in the ministry.
But
at that
is that
time,
because you made some changes?
It is because I made some changes, Pastor. Absolutely.
And you know, I understand the denominational churches, congregational rule churches. I don't know what kind of local church structure you have, but the pressures can be there.
Absolutely.
From the church, from the board, and how do we balance all that out? 1 out of 3 pastors say that the pastoral ministry is an outright hazard to their family and to their family structure. And I'm going to tell you something, that is so true. I've seen ministry rip so many families apart. I can remember, I grew up in a pastor's home. And I can remember even finding petitions where people had gotten petitions to vote my father out of the church because he cut a tree down in the church parsonage yard.
Wow.
And you know, there is a lot of pressure and there is a lot of stress. But we want to just come to you and just try to help you walk through some of the things that we walk through, and then to let you know we're here for you, not just on this video blog, but you can contact us, you can call us, you can email us, and we'd like to be there for you if you say, man, this is what's happening to me. I know my dad sat me down when I first started pastoring. I had a little 4-month-old boy. And he sat me down and he said, "Son, don't make the mistakes that your dad made. Don't put your church ahead of your family." That God instituted the family before he did the church.
Yes, he did.
And I'll never forget, I've been at the church I'm at now for 23 years, and when I first went there, I just told him in a sermon one Sunday morning, "I will not put your family before my family. I will not win your children and lose my children." And I had to make some real priority decisions. And one of those was just, Larry, that, you know, my kids had to go to school 5 days a week. So I had to realize I had to give a night a week to my kids at least. And then I had to make sure Saturday was the only day they were going to have. Now, the hard thing about that is that's when everybody else is off, and that's when we work at the church and do all that.
Have events.
Have events. And so, so we have to make some decisions. I was talking to a pastor not long ago. He works a full-time job. They were building and renovating their church. And he just said he's got 3 children. He said, "Man, I am never seeing my family." And my family is starting to make comments. Listen, when they start making comments, you better start making some adjustments.
Absolutely. You know, I read another statistic that is just unbelievable to me. It says 94% of families say they feel major pressure from the ministry and it is negatively effective. But you know what I like to do sometimes, Pastor, with stats, that's overwhelming. But let's flip it. Let's really understand what that means. That means out of all the pastors and ministers out there, there's only 6%. Only 6 out of 100. Yeah, less than 1 out of 10 are saying the ministry is adding to our lives. You know, and I read in the Bible, and I know you've read it, man of God, woman of God, many times. John 10:10, you know, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come to might have life and have it more abundantly. We preach that, we shout that, we quote that. But when we go home in our real world, we don't feel like we're living the abundant life. Yeah. You know, some of you guys out there, I'm going to be real with you. I'm gonna love on you for just a minute. How long has it been since you took a good vacation? How long has it been since you just went away and pulled yourself away? You can't be living the life that God has promised you in the New Testament if you are not at least taking some time to go be with your family, have date nights, all these kind. We'll talk about them in depth in another vlog. But I'm going to tell you something right now, Pastor. It's very, very important for you to understand. Well, God's ministry wants to add to your family, not take away.
And I'll tell you, here's some gut-wrenching things I'm going to say to you. Number one is a lot of kids are seeing their father one way at church and another way at home.
Absolutely.
One of the first things I decided is I'm not going to live two lives. I'm not going to put my family in a fishbowl life. I'm going to be real. I'll never forget I had to actually teach my kids. You know, I said what being real is because, you know, my son, I would run around the house, you know, in my shorts, you know, and I'd say, son, I'm not going to run around the church in my shorts, but I'm still going to be the same person. I may not wear the same thing, but I'm going to be the same person. Your kids need to see the same compassionate, the same spiritual leader. And I had to make some decisions, tough decisions. One of them was I decided I was going to get up every morning and pray before my kids got up. That I wanted them, when they woke up, I wanted them to catch their father praying, not just preaching to other people that they needed to pray.
And you know, the pressures on your children especially, I think about my girls. We've talked many times about these kind of things, Pastor, and you know, sometimes we as ministers forget that in the church, your kids and your wife, they're looked at by the church, by the people differently. And they shouldn't be. And that people feel like, well, if I can get close to them, I can get close to the pastor in all of this. And both my girls told me one time, we were sitting around having a talk just about the ministry, and they said, you know, Daddy, I just wish that the people would just let me be normal. I just want to be like them. But I feel like everybody wants to talk to me. Everybody wants to do this because my kids know why. They know it's because of us. So what we started trying to do many, many years ago is just talk about the realness from the pulpit of our family. And, you know, and making sure the congregation knows our family is just a part of this church, just like yours. We may be the leadership and the vision of this house, but hey, don't look at our family any different.
You know, I even made this statement several times throughout the years. And I wasn't arrogant and I didn't pound the pulpit. And you know, you need to be a man of wisdom, woman of wisdom. But I would tell them, I'd say, look, I'm telling you, don't ever say to one of my kids, you shouldn't do that because you're the pastor's daughter, the pastor's son. Matter of fact, if one of them said it, I would go and sit down with him and I would correct him and I would tell him, don't you ever do that. Now you can look at my son or my daughter and say, hey, you're a Christ follower, you're a believer. Believers don't act like that. But don't ever attach and make my children hate the ministry. I'll tell you something else I did. And I'm talking to you, but you know, I know you're under stress and pressure, but I want to help you. Is be careful what you say in front of your kids. Like, I've got to go to work and I've got to be at this meeting. And you need to make it your life. You need to make it fun. And you know, and include your children. Take them with you. I mean, we did a door-to-door prayer walk, we used to call it. We did it every week on the same night. I took my kids. I made it fun. I didn't say I have to, I've got to. I didn't act like I didn't like it. And, you know, and I included my kids, and it was a family thing. So I wasn't separated from them. We went to church together, we served together, then we played together at home, we laughed together, and we had fun together.
And, you know, I sense in my spirit, Pastor, that there are people watching this right now that feel like I felt so many times when I heard ministers say something similar to that. It's so easy to be watching this on your computer or you're on your phone or whatever you're watching this and say, you know what, that sounds great. Frankie, Larry, that sounds great. I'm so glad that you are able to fix that in your life, but you don't understand my situation. You sound like you guys have got it all together. Y'all sound like y'all got so many staff people that take care of all your stuff. Let me tell you something. This ain't some mega church pastors here that's walking around, gotten everybody's taking care of everything for us. We still struggle. We still have to do things. And there are times, Pastor, that we still have to go to things when maybe our kids doesn't want us to go.
That's right.
And the church is a responsibility to us. Yeah. We're not saying that we never make mistakes.
Oh,
that
we still make them.
And that we never struggle with our families. That's to this day. We're still struggling with them.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, there are some things you can do to take some of that pressure off. I would say to my kids, you know, yeah, Dad has to be gone. But you know, if I was a doctor or a lawyer or some big businessman, they are gone a lot too.
Yeah, they are.
But I would always say this to them. I got to go to their school functions. I got to go to things during the day because my job did allow me to adjust my schedule. And a lot of times on purpose, I'd just be sitting at one of their events, and I would say, I want you to look around. You know, I know Dad has to be gone at night a lot or a lot of Saturdays. But look, not very many dads could be here today because they had to be at work.
Yes.
But that's the blessing of me being a pastor. That's the blessing of being in the
Amen.
ministry.
It is a blessing. It is a blessed life. But if you do not have what you need in your life, and that's what we want to be to you, to help you, then let me tell you, it doesn't feel like a blessing. Pastor, I know we're running out of time, and I want to encourage you to check out the next blog, because I feel like we're going to really help some people. Because, Pastor, I feel that there are some people saying, I want to do this, I want to do it, but I'm so burnt out on my life. I don't even feel like I even want to be in the ministry anymore. We've talked about statistics and everything. We want to do whatever we can do to help you, to get you past that place of burnout. But the key thing you got to understand in this particular message that we're speaking to you right now,
family comes first.
Family comes first.
If you're overwhelmed and you're hearing this and you say, I just need somebody to practically walk me through this, walk with me through it. And because it ain't going to happen overnight. We don't expect you to go and make 30 changes overnight. We're telling you years of experience. Matter of fact, I do want to tell them one other thing before we close this blog. You know, God will give you wisdom. He says that if you lack wisdom, He'll give it to you. And I promise you, you may feel overwhelmed and burnt out. You may even feel kind of distant from God. But you know what? He doesn't expect you to be perfect.
Amen.
He's just looking for somebody whose heart will trust in Him. And if you'll just say, God, I've blown it, I've made a mistake, I need some wisdom, He'll give you a little wisdom. I can remember one thing God showed me. He just said, Frankie, maybe you need to play with your kids and then go to bed when they go to bed, but then get back up after they go to sleep. Maybe you need to not let them see what you're doing, and then it'll take some of that out of their heart.
That's good.
And you know what? It meant I had to get up a little earlier and sometimes stay up a little later, but it did change the dynamic in my family.
Amen.
It's not too big a mountain for you to get over.
Exactly.
And listen, we're spending this time not trying to tell you we know it all and this is what you need to do. We just want to be here to walk along beside you.
Amen.
We hope you will tune in to another one of our blogs. We'll be talking more about your marriage, your family, and especially we want to talk to you if you're just burnt out, you're just discouraged, you're depressed, and maybe you're really on the verge of walking away from the ministry, maybe even walking away from your family.
Amen.
Don't do it. Link up with us. We'll help you connect life and leadership.
Amen.